Why just for black people or brown people? What about all the poor white people? Because DEI...
They come up here too.
What's it? But we don't do that, really. Does diversity, equity, and inclusion include white people? It can.
It can.
Does it?
Does it include white people?
Who doesn't have... How many of you who's working 3 jobs just to survive? Dude, he's working 3 jobs. You 2 jobs? Could you loan him your credit card once in a while? You could use it, right? Once in a while. So he needs money. Why not help that dude out? Why the disabled person?
One of them is a basic human right, and the other one, I can't guess what he's going to spend the credit card money on.
What if the person who's disabled was drunk driving and speeding when 1,000 people told him to stop doing that, and they got in a car accident and they broke their spine, they broke their back, and now there they are in a wheelchair. And now you come along after thousands of people told that person stop doing that, and not only that, but they seriously injured other people in the process.
So if you guys don't know who he is, this is Dr. Richards. He's a professor in a sociology class, and what he's doing right now is highlighting the hypocrisy that comes from diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Right now, he's specifically talking about equity, who deserves equity and who doesn't deserve equity. So let's get into it.
But that doesn't matter. They're disabled. We're going to buy them a wheelchair. How about that? Go ahead.
I don't have anything to say.
You don't have...
Well, I wasn't exact. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, with the idea, the person in the wheelchair, it's their fault they're in a wheelchair.
Right.
So, are you cool with buying a wheelchair for him, $10,000? Because he's saying, like, the person needs a wheelchair, man. Like, what are you going to crawl? They're going to come to Penn State, they're going to crawl into class. They're going to crawl across campus. They're going to crawl into class. They're going to crawl down the stairs. And we're going to lift themselves up into the seat right here in the front because the government...
I think that's a great question because he's basically saying, do people who put themselves in their own situation still deserve equity? That's the fundamental thing of what he's saying. He's going to refer this back to race in a moment. But most people don't think about that. If someone put themselves in a situation, do they still deserve some form of equity in life?
Because we won't buy them a damn wheelchair.
Well, I agree with what he was saying, that like that's the idea of equity as well, as you're evening the playing field. Like you think of like with golf, how there's handicaps because you can't play a pro golfer without maybe getting some sort of handicap that's like what.
Yeah, but what if the equity is it's your own fault? You're in a wheelchair. Like when do you draw the line to say, the equity is a cool thing, but why that?
Well, okay, this is going to be controversial, but it's also sometimes it's like it could be someone's fault that they're poor if they poorly invested, but they still deserve food stamps.
Dude, it might be this dude's fault that he has to work 2 jobs. You might have spent...
Are you playing with stocks?
Dude, he might be gambling his money away on the bills, bro. He's gambling it on the bills. Like, oh, damn, man. Yeah, bad idea. Or the Jets, even worse, right? And so, whatever. That's why he needs it. But you see the problem here. Equity sounds good when it's a wheelchair. Or it's we have disabled students who, in communities all across the country, and we have special busing services to get disabled students where they need to go. That costs a lot of money. But we do that because they're disabled. And somehow that just feels like, okay, we should do that. That feels okay. So equity isn't necessarily a problem. But what about Sam here? He comes from a poor family, let's say. So let's say that we come up with a program for Nigerians, immigrants, right? Yeah, immigrants, because we have this idea that immigrants are poor. But a lot of immigrants aren't poor. A lot of Nigerian immigrants aren't poor. A lot of Indian immigrants aren't poor. Persians immigrants aren't poor, right? So wait, what's that about? So the problem is when we get these systems in place for equity, we want to try to balance it out so everybody gets a fair shake. You see this? But like, when is it fair and when is it not fair? So you would say, okay, question. So now as a black man, what about that? What's unfair for you about being black? That we should have some kind of program at Penn State to give you some kind of little special boost somehow as a black guy.
You're just talking about equity, right?
Yeah, equity.
I mean, for me, like, equity is just, like you said, giving people what they need in terms to have like equal chance at life. I feel.
Oh, but we don't have time to figure out what you need.
Okay.
And we don't have time to figure out what all the other black people in class need. Sam, you and I, we're going to go around, we're going to pick all the black people up in here, we're going to grab them, we're going to line them up in the front.
Yep.
Okay, from the poorest to the wealthiest. First off, how many poor black people you think there are in here?
None.
There aren't very many.
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There aren't very. First off, there used to be. Poor, rich in spirit, my friend.
I was kind of hoping he answered that question, like, what struggles did you face as a black man that made you deserve special privilege? Because I wanted to hear his answer. But now he's going to give an even more in-depth explanation on, I guess, the problems with equity. Let's continue.
All right. That guy's the richest person in the class in spirit, which you'll find out
in a
little. So here's the issue. There used to be, but Penn State's pretty expensive now, so there aren't very many, right? And more likely to be poor. There are more poor white people in here than poor black people, all right? So listen, but we're going to line them all up. Okay? So we're going to line the poorest up down here up to the richest. And the richest black person in here, by the way, is probably pretty damn rich. Might be. Is it you, by the way?
Definitely not.
All right. No, definitely not? All right. Okay, so we good? Now, you and I, here, stand up. We're going to do this metaphorically, right? Imagine there's a lineup of black people right here.
Okay, bet.
Okay, here we go. We're going to walk down. We're going to decide who's deserving of something. It's the poorest. No, let's go with the richest. The wealthiest down here, the poorest down here, okay?
All right.
Now, okay, so the richest, now these people. So here we go. Now you're rich. Imagine there are people here.
Okay.
You're rich. No, okay, we're not giving you anything.
Yeah.
No. Okay, no, you're good. You don't deserve anything. No, nothing. I don't care. And then we start getting down here to the people who are a little less connected.
Yeah.
And now we got a problem because we're like, where do you draw the line here between this person and that person, right? Where do you draw the line? Like, where do you make it happen?
I mean, that's a great question, because when it comes to equity policies, where do you draw the line? If you just say only black people will get this benefit, or only white people will get this benefit, or only Asian people will get this benefit, what if there's someone in that demographic who doesn't deserve or need that benefit? That's the problem. Some people do not need special treatment. They don't need any benefits. They don't need it. And you still give it to them based off of things they can't control, like their race or gender or so on and so forth. You're hurting the public when you do things like that. There has to be some level of thought when you're giving any social benefit or any social reward to a demographic of people. That it's like giving a person with no kids maternity leave because you said everyone at my job gets maternity leave. What if they don't have any kids? You just gonna give everyone maternity leave? Obviously not. There has to be some thought into it. And when you just give a blanket term like black, you're black so you get this, or you're white so you get this, that's when problems start to arise.
That's the problem.
Yeah. You're asking me?
Yeah, like where would you do it? Can you see the complication of that?
A little bit, but I guess if you kind of like say all right, let's say it's kind of crazy. Out of 10, they're like rich to poor, and then 10 being the richest, like 1 being the poorest.
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody's like 7 out of 10, you would give them 3. That makes sense. 5 out of 10, you give them 5.
Okay, yeah. You do with something.
Yeah, I try to.
But how do you do that? There's so many people who are in need, and why would you do it? Why just for black people or brown people? What about all the poor white people? Because DEI,
they come up here too.
What's it? But we don't do that really. Mm-hmm. Does diversity, equity, and inclusion include white people?
It can.
It can.
It can.
Does it?
He said it can include white people. Does it include white people? Does DEI help white people?
Sometimes.
When?
And occasions like
Women.
yeah, exactly.
Disabled people who are disabled. Mm-hmm. How about able-bodied white men who are not disabled?
Poverty?
Often does it include them?
If they're like impoverished.
What DEI programs really involve class and social class and
Bruh, stop capping. There are no DEI programs that help white men. There are none. There are none. I don't think of one DEI program that helps white men. That is like the antithesis of being a white man. If I'm being 100% honest, there's not one program. And trying to think of one, it's not one out there. It's not one out there. Dr. Richards is asking a good question. I'm not saying this because I'm biased. I'm just being honest. There isn't any that just help them. There aren't any.
in economic wealth.
That's a good question.
I mean, they should.
Yeah.
They all involve it at some level, but how often? This is part of the problem. What do you think about that? What do you think about what we're doing right here? What are you thinking? Is your head spinning a little bit?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
What exactly is the question?
Let's take, you're Indian American. Think about all the Indian Americans here.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. How do you decide which ones have specific needs and which ones don't? Imagine how big that is. Millions of people. And then you're going to design programs to figure out how you're going to help some people and not other people, and damn. Can you imagine signing up for that? You want to be a nuclear engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy job compared to what this would be. You got to sort through all these Indian Americans living in the United States. You got to figure out which ones are worthy of assistance.
That's a very, very good point. And Dr. Richards, he always does an amazing job of providing a lot of nuance to the talking points. And some people don't agree with whether or not he's liberal or conservative. I think they're missing the point. He provides a lot of different perspectives to talking points. This would be an extremely hard job. And that's kind of underlines to me the biggest problem that comes from DEI policies. It's extremely difficult to determine who needs benefits and who doesn't need benefits. It's a very, very, very hard job. And some people get benefits who don't need them. Some people don't get benefits who do need them. It's hard. That's where these problems come across. That's why people are taking these issues to the Supreme Court for affirmative action. That's why we have so much divide on it, because some people really do need help and they're not getting it based off of because of how they look. Some people don't need any help and they get it and they don't use it. It's a lot of issues. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you want a part 2 to this, make sure you check out Sam Richards' channels. The video is titled "What is a Problem with Equities?" Social 119. My name is LFR JoJo, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.